Hey, brother, it's really good to have you on the show. For those people that don't know you, you are an author of When That Day Comes, which is one of the best police books out there. What is the gist of the book?
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thanks. It was just basically my career with my old agency, my 20 years and 64 days. And stuff that I never would have imagined that I would have ever seen or experienced. And I just felt an obligation to share my story. So
Without giving away the book, can you tell us about you and about your career?
yeah. First generation law enforcement. Got picked up in 97, retired in 2018, is that right? Yeah. So um I had a series of major critical incidents during that time. And on the good part was it was a lot of fun until my 18th year, and then it wasn't. Um, During that time, um, up until 2016, 2 years before I retired, my hair was on fire. I was having a ball. Got on a specialty squad. Just couldn't slow down. Just I'm like, you guys are paying me to do this. Even after 18 years, I was having a blast. So it was fantastic. I had a good time. So
What state were you in?
Arizona.
Arizona. And your agency, was it on the smaller side or on the bigger side?
It was a big one. Yeah, we're about 4,000 strong when I got on. So
Whoa. Yeah, that's top 10 in terms of largest agencies in the nation.
I think they're about 400 now, but I don't know relative.
That's happening everywhere though, across the country. A lot of people are having trouble recruiting. It's starting to come back around where people are starting to realize, hey, it's not such a terrible job, but they definitely took a PR hit for a few years.
I agree. I agree. That's a shame too, because it's one of the most honorable things I can imagine doing. And the fact that they took me on board, and there's a few people that took a chance on me, and I'm glad they did because it ended up being the best choice I ever could have made. So
What was your most favorite unit that you worked in?
I got well, about a year on. I know it sounds really bad to say it this way. Um, I hated responding to domestic violence calls. Even more than that, I hated doing reconstruction on accidents because I never learned how to do the accidents. And the DV calls, as you well know, they unfortunately just very rarely go anywhere.
Yep.
So about a year on, I was already kind of not burned out, but I discovered this squad called the Neighborhood Enforcement Team. I'm like, that sounds like someplace I want to go. And at the time, I was the youngest guy to ever get picked up by that unit with 4 years on and never left pretty much. And it was proactive, like half undercover, half patrol, half plainclothes, half catch-all squad. We did everything. It was fantastic. So
That sounds like fun. It took me 6 years to get into, they called it the Community Oriented Police Enforcement. The acronym was COPE. And it took me 6 years to get into that unit. I got into it from working the midnights, and everyone said you couldn't move anywhere from working the midnights because the midnights were slugs. But my squad was all a bunch of young guys, and we were all ripping and roaring and having a good time. It was who could go out and make the first collar.
every day it was great. It's fantastic, man. That's what I
It
love.
was so much fun working the mids. We'd hop in the car and then we'd shoot out to this drug infested area, and we'd just see what we could scoop up, see what we could find. And we all got transferred off the midnights voluntarily into units that we wanted. And I stayed in that cope unit for way too long. I tell everyone I stayed too long. I thought I could retire out of that unit because it was so much fun. You got to do enforcement, like similar to neighborhood enforcement. We didn't do any undercover, but we did do parades and community meetings. And then when we didn't have that once a month, then we were just doing whatever else we wanted to do. So it was like it was awesome, and it was Sunday, Monday off, regular schedule. So it was pretty sweet. What hours were you working?
Well, that was one of the perks, and here's how I describe it. That we worked like Tuesday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, 6 to 4, which was great because my theory is that if guys are doing stuff during the day, they don't care who's watching. Clearly you get more violent stuff at night, but You got the bank robberies and the burglaries and all that kind of stuff during the day. Um,
Was this 1800 to 0400?
this was like 06 to 16, so it was
Oh,
yeah. So, and day shift weekends off is where everybody wanted to be because I mean it's like you got a regular family life and
yeah.
young kids at the time, of course. The bad thing, probably you experienced this as well, was that because we had all these extra skills and nobody else knew who to call, because you're not going to call SWAT guys for this, you're not going to call Vice for that. Hey, call the net guys. So we got freaking, passed around through all the federal agencies and all the patrol guys, and everybody wanted us to make the stops for them. The
Yeah.
wall stop. I'm like, dude. So I mean, even though we did have a lot of free time to, just be out there chasing bad guys, we were also tasked with same thing, the TRU, the Tactical Response Unit, doing all the riots and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that part I hated, but now whatever came with it. So,
So, what year did you write the book in?
started in 2017 after my last major critical incident. Took me realistically about 3 years. You can probably see in the background, I got my picture of my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Met her during the process, and she did all the editing for me, and that's what took.
Okay,
So,
that's cool. And so how long did it take you to write it? Like you said, like 3 years?
it was realistically about a year for me to actually write it, and then between meeting her, moving out to San Diego, falling in love, and all that stuff, between relocating and the editing and all the exploration of the beach and all that kind of stuff, it took about 2 more years total time, which probably could have been done in about a year, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm working on my second book, the Hero Coaching Blueprint, and that'll be out in the first quarter, January or February, the latest. I didn't expect it to take a year, but between the editing and me sending things back and just promoting it slowly, it's taking a long time.
but I
You
mean,
understand.
put your heart and soul into it, and that's where it comes out on the back end better, I think so.
And now you've been doing a little bit of speaking, touring around.
Yeah, and I remember back in the day we had a guy from another agency come in and telling his story. And my thought process back then was that's a bunch of crap. That doesn't happen, man. Cops are gonna go chase bad guys, and then it dawned on me after all the stuff I went through, which I'm sure we'll cover, that there's other kids, I call them kids out there, that need to hear that story as well, because if you get in there with this attitude of nothing can touch me, you're gonna be sadly mistaken. And because I thought I was such a badass, and I got knocked over like several different ways. It dawned on me that yeah, you can be a kick-ass cop and out there chasing bad guys and doing all the fun stuff, but it's going to come with a toll, and over time, it's going to take its price on your head. I mean, that's what happened to me. So I decided that speaking to different agencies, like Cigna Mental Health and radio and all these other places, just to remind folks of all the stuff that we got to deal with, So
Well, I always write down things when I never heard of it. Would you say Signal Mental Health?
Cigna.
Oh, Cigna. That's what a C, right? Cigna.
That's out on the west side of the country. That's basically our main. Well, back in the day, that was our main like medical authority for mental health. It's exploded now. They've probably got 100 of them now, but that was the main one back in the day. So
That's our healthcare right now, Cigna.
okay, yeah,
So
nice.
it sounds like it's probably a branch of their company.
And they just brought me in as a speaker just to their mental health folks, so they can um take it to the next level, I guess, if you will, for their people. Just, I mean, it wasn't really like a clinical thing. It was more just, hey, these are what cops see and do. So when they come to us, as a group, we kind of have a better feeling of what they're experiencing, So,
How many talks do you think you've done?
oh geez, man, I've literally lost count. It's got to be between I think 12 states now, well into the hundreds, probably something like that. So
And are you looking for them, or are they mostly getting referred to you?
mostly it's me, putting my name out there, which is fantastic because I've gotten some really unbelievable opportunities to travel, meet just a ton of different people. I've been all the way to the East Coast, all the way to the Pacific Northwest. Haven't ventured down to the Southeast yet, but I'm working on it. So pretty much everywhere in the middle.
I saw in your bio that you were born in the Northeast,
Yeah, New Hampshire. Yeah.
New Hampshire. Okay. It's cold up there, and it's big difference from San Diego.
Big difference. I mean, the big joke is you don't have to shovel sunshine, and I was only there, well, technically I was there for about 13 years total time between the first time being there and then the second time being back up there with my stepdad. Um, and now I absolutely love it. But back when I was a kid, I'm like, I don't want to deal with, the salt on the road and all this other crazy stuff. And I ride a motorcycle and you can only ride, like 2 days out of the year out there, or
Yeah.
whatever. Where
So
here I can.
how long did you live in Arizona?
I was there. I got well, I followed a girl there in 91 and left there in 2019. So whatever that is.
Long time. Yeah,
Wait,
long time.
and I wasn't a big fan. Mostly there's a lot of really good places to live there, and it's an easy place to live, it really is. But the heat it was just too much for me. So
So in San Diego, it's like 82 every day, right? Like
yeah.
85.
66. So yeah,
66 right now?
it's probably about 60 right now. It's actually kind of cold for us. And even
Okay.
back in the day when 40 degrees meant t-shirt weather to go out and ride my bike, now if it's under 70, I'm freezing. So
You keeping yourself in good shape?
I am, yeah. In fact, basically because a lot of what I'm doing now is I'm getting back into the field on some level. And in the process of doing that, I'm trying to get. I mean, here's the problem with when you retire, and this is what I tell folks: a couple different versions. When you retire and then you move to San Diego, where you got all the best food in the world, you start putting on the weight, and then you start turning in your 50s, like, which I can't believe. All these things start to happen. But one thing I discovered about retirement was that, and you may have experienced this as well. When I left, I got really, really sick. It was 2018, and it was very much like the COVID symptoms. And I was down for about 3 weeks. And what I realized was it was, 40 hours of adrenaline dumps every day, the 40-hour blue family that I no longer had, all these kinds of things, the scheduling, and now all of a sudden I've got literally nothing to do. And my body was like, hey, what's going on here, man? We miss all this great stuff, and now it's not there anymore. Um, and so I tell people all the time, it's like, hey, don't do what I did and just jump straight off the diving board into nothing. Have something to keep yourself occupied for a while till your body adjusts to it. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's my biggest message to people. It's like start planning for retirement 5, 10 years before you actually do it, and have a plan of what the exact thing is that you're going to do the day you step out. And so you
yeah.
could start building towards that now. It doesn't matter where you are in your career.
Well, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I'll just say that when I went for the after insurance policy stuff, don't do that. Just take my word for it. Don't do it. It was an absolute, complete, total waste of money. Um, and the coverage was junk. My ex at the time, we were still married. She went to go get a prescription. It wasn't even covered for like a basic prescription. I'm coming out of pocket $1,600 a month to freaking pay for insurance. It doesn't cover a thing. So
Oh
that's
my God.
my advice. So
We have pretty good insurance over here. I'm in New York, so it's decent. For a long time, our dental wasn't the greatest, but they just switched plans and got with a better company. So it's actually our union's pretty good, I have to say.
yes. Yeah, I mean, and it sounds bad. I know you've heard this 100 times that the old guys. Oh, when you leave, you're just a number. They're gonna forget all about you. Oh no, wait, man, I'm Chris Hoyer. Look at me. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. So sure enough, I mean, I've got a lot of my close friends that I still make contact with regularly. But as far as the department goes, I was out the door and they're done. They're like, yep, you're out. Be gone. Like, wait a second, man. I did had dedicated 20 years of my life to you guys, and now I get nothing. So
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how fast you get replaced when you step out.
yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I got a good retirement, and of course, you already heard the word the X, so naturally, she got half. That's another conversation that I like to bring up. That's like my former boss said, hey, you know what? Yeah, you got to pay her all this money, but is it worth your freedom? And I add to that my own personal thing where I say, no matter how you look at it, 20 years of not knowing if I'm ever coming home, I think is worth half my pension for her, you know. And that's just my theory. I don't hate her. I don't want to be around her, but you know.
So I went through a similar situation, and my view on it is I can always make more money.
Oh yeah.
That's my view. You know, like I have so many other skills that I can apply to the marketplace. You know, speaking, coaching, and just being creative and helping people with creative solutions and just being a resource for people. So I know that anyone listening out there that's gone through that situation, just know that you just need a few, you need to pick up a few extra skills and you can always make more money. I had a old boss of mine that committed suicide because he was in a tremendous amount of debt and his wife was leaving him. So
That's unfortunate.
whoever's out there in pain, I know how painful it is. Chris knows how painful it is. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy because it sucks when you're going through it. But once you get through it, it's like the skies open up, right?
Well, and that's the hard part when you are in it, because after, like I said, my last critical incident, I was so sucked into it, I couldn't get myself straight, you know. And I had a lot of people telling me, "Well, you need to do this and do this and do this," and I was still kind of in that mentality of I can handle it, you know, pounding my chest, you know, and all this, and not taking the proper advice, at least not following up on it, and that cost me 2 years of my life, you know. Going back to what you said earlier, though, one of the things that I did do that was really smart early on was um, planning for my retirement. Even though it wasn't my intention at the time, was going getting all my instructorships out of the way. So later on, when I did retire, I can go teach because you know the theory, of course, to those who can't teach, right? So
Right, right.
that's what I do now. I do a lot of instructing, which is just the greatest thing in the world. It's like, wait a second, I still get to be in the community, but I'm not getting shot at, you know.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. So,
Where do you teach? All different academies or
yeah, I go back to Arizona, teach at their academy on occasion. When I moved out here, I got picked up by the Marine Corps Police Academy. I was teaching with those guys for a while. I teach like private concealed weapons classes. Tomorrow, I've got a really close friend of mine, Brandon Griffith, who runs a company called Griffith Blue Heart, which is at least a 3 hour conversation. But a lot of the stuff that they do is high speed resuscitation, stop the bleed, all these kinds of things. And he's literally changing the face of law enforcement as far as AEDs and these kinds of things. They've actually created a pocket-sized AED that you can put in your cargo pants.
I know Brandon. He actually was one of my he was so supportive and one of my best interviews. I talked to him just 2 weeks ago, and I'm actually reaching out to him. He's the one that referred you to me.
All right. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. He's the one that told me to connect with you because every time I always say, "Who's got a great story?" And he's like, "You were the, I think you were top three names on his list." He's like, "You got to talk to my buddy Chris Hoyer."
That's awesome. Nice. Yeah. He's such a good dude, man. And
It really is.
wish I could do what he's doing full time out here, because he's making such a huge impact on our community. It's just awesome. So, in fact, he's coming all the way out here to teach his class to a bunch of local agencies down in San Diego. So, and I can't. I'm actually taking off work to go be with him instead of going back to work. So,
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. What's your next project that you got coming up?
next one. Well, I know it sounds scary, and I can't believe it. Even though I'm a grandfather, and I'll be turning 55 in 2024. My goal, I realized that I quit setting goals after I got hired on the department because I made it to the squad I wanted to go to, and I was just having so much fun. I didn't really feel like I needed to set any goals. So after retirement, of course, moving out here was one, but now my goal is I've got this thing where I call it 24, 55, 24. I'll turn 55 on August 24th in 2024. So by my birthday this year, I want to be living in Coronado with my girlfriend and back on another agency, I guess I can say it. So,
Back on another agency. Oh man, my fingers crossed for you.
thanks. Well,
You can do it.
it sounds crazy and people think I'm absolutely nuts because it's like, dude, you got out 20 years without your fingers and toes. Why would you go back? But my theory is that, man, I've got such a tremendous amount of experience, even though I still can't believe it, that, I saved the world externally for 20 years. Now I feel like I can add that to it. Additionally, um, save the world internally for the next 15 or 20 years as well, and help the younger generation coming through.
So at 55, is there no maximum age to retire?
As long as you can do the
So
work, man, I don't care. So.
will you study to make a supervisor, study to make boss?
I thought about that. I'm not sure. Everybody says I'd make a great leader, but I'm a horrible supervisor. When it comes to like the overtime slips and the, ratting out the use of force policy stuff, and all, I mean, no way. But as far as like people gravitating toward me and being able to run a scene, all that, I'm great at all that kind of stuff. So I could be a great field supervisor, but I don't know about the being a sergeant or a lieutenant. But
Okay, all right. Well, a lot of people that I've talked to, a lot of chiefs have said that sergeant was their favorite role, favorite position in leadership, because you're still in the streets, but you're not necessarily the first on the scene handling the call, but you're still out there with the men. I could see you as I could see you as a field sergeant.
thanks, man. Thanks. I
How
think
long do you, I'm sorry, do you know how long you have to wait to take the test to promote?
no, I haven't. I'm still in the background process as we speak. So
Yeah.
it'll be I'm assuming hopefully less than 4 or 5 months, and I should have something solid, and then I'll know for sure. After that, I think if I do maybe 4 or 5 or 6 years, I can start looking at promoting if I decide to do that. Um, Truth be told, what I really want to do is run the firearms program if I can, because that's my kind of my forte. I just have such a good time doing it, and it's such an important part of what we do. Unfortunately, people just think that it's going to go out there and start shooting things up. It's like, well, no, that's not the case. It's far deeper than that, because I'm living proof that any monkey can pull the trigger. But how do you prepare for that beforehand? And then now that you've experienced, God forbid, you've had to take a life or something like that, or you even take a shot and miss, that's going to weigh on your psyche, and it will. How do you deal with that? That's where I come in and I'm like a subject matter expert on that kind of stuff. So
Nice. Did you train any jujitsu or any kind of martial arts?
I tried for a while. You probably heard of Rigo Durazo,
Yeah.
one of Brandon's as well. And I trained with Rigo back in like 2010. And I realized that as much of a street monster as I was, I never lost a fight. I don't have the coordination to, I'm like, does my arm go underneath or over top? And so I was one of those guys where I come in just with full force and just muscle you down to the ground. I'm not a big guy. Um, and don't get me wrong, I mean, there's been plenty of times when guys probably should have whipped my ass, and I just either talked my way out of it or, got enough other folks there to help me out. So
I'm not a big guy either, and 90% of the time, I talk them into cuffs. I would say even higher, 95% of the time, I was able to talk my way out of whatever situation it was in. And a lot of times I was out there by myself, and I just, I was just like, "Hey, man, don't make me call the cavalry," you know.
oh yeah, I was a genius with that. That was one thing I could do very well, was talk people into cuffs all day long. Thank God, because there's some pretty bad dudes out there, no doubt, man. So
Yeah, and taser was my favorite thing on my belt.
yes.
I didn't have to use it a lot, but I did whip it out a lot.
But I've had several deployments, but I've only had it actually work really good maybe 3 or 4 times.
I would say I had it work really well 2 out of 3 times that I used it. One time the prong just accidentally went in the guy's like top of his head, and he just kind of like plucked it out. It was, the head is so thick, it's hard for the
Yeah,
prong to stick.
that's awesome. Oh man. Well, I shouldn't even say the story, but I was when we first got the old ones. Yeah, it was the M26 or something. I was sitting there and I was playing clothes one day, and I was sitting there and I'm like falling asleep, and had a taser in my hand, and I freaking
Oh
heat,
no.
and it was sitting on my leg, and I freaking zapped myself. Of course, I'm so stupid. I'm busting out laughing, and of course, I got to get on the radio and tell everybody what I just did. It's like it was my first taser. So yeah.
Um, if you actually had a Netflix cameraman following you around, What would you make your show about? Would it be more documentary style, or would it be more like a movie, like a reenactment of a specific scene?
I think it might be a combination of both because I'm huge into the documentaries. Um, the educational part of what we do, but because I mean, I'm sure you probably saw this. I was a resident ship magnet in 3 separate precincts. Um, my chase bad guys thing was. I mean, it sounds really bad, but my first major critical incident, I had a buddy riding with me, a CEO riding with me. So he got more than he bargained for on that one, to say the least, and so did I, of course. But
What happened in that first incident?
that one, what did we do? It was a hot call, car accident. Basically, this guy he'd stolen a car. He'd run from officers in a different area of town and was coming through our neighborhood. And of course, radio gets on there like, "Yeah, we got this guy running from Maryville over that way and whatever else." I'm like, "Okay, it's not my area, so why do I care?" And sure enough, of course, we put two and two together after the fact. The guy plants his car under a semi trailer, and I swear I don't know how he got out of that car, but he did. Completely crushed it underneath it. The call I got was car accident, subject running with a gun. And I'm like, cool, all right, let's go. And we're literally
Yo,
not even a mile away, like half a mile away. And because I hate doing accidents, like I mentioned, I'm like, well, I got a car accident over here, nobody's there. It's a semi, so obviously the driver's fine. The truck is anyway. Versus I got a subject running through a neighborhood with a gun. What's my priority? Go after the guy with the gun. Long story short on that part, basically I tracked him into a business complex, found him sitting inside of a different car with a 8-inch straight slotted throwing knife, cracking a column in his car. And I'm standing in uniform, and this is 2 years on, right? So I'm standing there, with my cape on, and got him at gunpoint, and he's looking at me like, yeah, and whatever. I'm going, oh, this is a problem. Um, of course, I was so brand new, I didn't know, all the stuff I needed to do, which I did. I knew what to do, but I flaked out because I'm like, hey, I got this going on. I got this going on. I don't have to worry about all these other things, like letting radio know where I was. Kind of a big deal, right? Which I did when I first got on the second scene, if you will. I parked my car, let her know where I was, and then I ended up going back behind the building, if you will. And that's where I found the guy. Luckily, the aircraft was overhead. They're putting it out for me. And the really strange part was I wish that I had planned this out. And this is where I start talking about mental preparation, playing that what if game. What if, what if, what if? And I've been doing that for quite a while already, even with only 2 years on. And so I got this guy in the car. I can't block him in. I know he's probably got a gun, according to the radio. I can see he's got a knife in his hand. What do you do? It's like, oh shit. So I started kicking the window of the car just instinctively. And again, I wish I had planned that out, but that's not what it was. But trying to be smart, I didn't want to shoot my toe off. So I used my
right.
right hand strong. So I kick him with my left foot, didn't work. And I go back for cover, come back up second time, get out of the car, get out of the car. And I know one of my pet peeves is when you hear drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. You ain't dropping the knife, bro. I mean, after 27 tries, you got to think of something else. For me,
Right.
after like 3 at the very most. So I go back, get out of the car. He's not getting out of the car, kicking the window a second time, nothing. Now I can hear the car starting to crank. Go back up for that third time, lean back behind me for the car behind me, kick the window with my right foot. And when that happens, basically the glass comes over his body and he's trying to shield himself from the glass, reaches down under the bench seat, pulls up what ended up being a little Lorson 380. I'm like, dude, you might as well just throw that thing at me. I mean, whatever. It was loaded. He got the gun to just about eye level, and then I opened fire and fired 2 rounds and round right through his arm into the heart, and he was pretty much done. So,
Oh my God.
what just happened here, man? So,
Oh my God. 2 years on the job.
here's it. In fact, well, I didn't mention this, but my first year, again playing that what if game, I actually had to shoot a 150-pound Rottweiler, which was 10 times worse than shooting a bad guy. Bad guy knows. I mean, they're stupid. It's like, hey, I'm not going to apologize. You broke
The dog doesn't know. Yeah.
and I still feel guilty about that. This was in 1999, and he attacked me. Still got a scar on my hand from it. All these years later, and it was one of those things where, I realized that, it was a different kind of a dynamic, but how quickly things went bad. And if it wasn't me, it was probably going to be that mom running with her baby stroller, or the animal control person with a snare. What are you going to do with a snare? You're not going to do jack with that thing, so it obviously had to be me. So
When I was 15, riding my bike through the hood, I got chased by several dogs, and I used to be pedaling as hard as I could, trying to kick them away. And that was like a recurring nightmare for me for a long time. So when I got on the job, I only had one dog ever on a car stop run out of a yard after me. And I retreated back to my car and ran up onto the hood. And I was pointing down on the dog, and then someone opened the door, like, "Don't shoot my dog." And I'm like, "You better get your dog. You better
yeah,
get your dog."
yeah.
And they came out and got the dog. Thank God I didn't have to shoot the dog.
I still feel guilty about that, all these years
Of
later.
course, of course.
But again, like you said, the dog doesn't know any better, but I had no choice. I mean, it was literally, a fight to the death. It was bad. I mean, by the time I got done, I had blood pouring down my hand, all over my gun, down my pant leg, everything else. It was crazy. So
And did you ever go and talk to any professionals about these incidents that you've been involved in?
I did, yeah. In
Good.
fact, of course, because the city I work for, it was required then to go see the city shrink. One time, you get your 3 days off, and I used to. It was a bad joke, but if you're gonna get into a shooting, do it on your Monday. That way, you just got your weekend just rolled around. You get your 3 days off, and then your weekend rolls back around again, so you'll technically get 9 days off, right? So, but then now it's changed now to where they want you to go see her or him twice within a 30-day period. And then you've also got 30 days off to kind of recalibrate yourself and so forth. So
That's good. That's good. Did your agency have a peer support team or anything like that?
they did, yeah, they actually stole it from I think it was someplace in Baltimore, maybe. And I liked what they did. Um, they started the process, but they never really followed up with it that well. And here's why I say it that way. Um, when I got sent home after in 2016, I got sent home for 30 days. And the really bad part was we had 6 other officer involved shootings in that 6 week period, give or take, something like that. And of course, everybody has to go see the psychiatrist, and I couldn't get in. It took me 7 weeks to finally go get to see her. During that period, I decided I'm just going to go stay home. And every single other person that was on my scene got sent to other areas like assaults or go be an SRO or something like that. And these guys are going, dude, I'm not an assault detective. I don't want to be up here, sharing my story with no offense, a bunch of strangers that all they want to hear is about what's going on here. And I thought that was kind of a bad way to send folks. I mean, a lot of these guys are like, dude, I'm down at headquarters and I'm literally building partitions for the new office that's going up. And it's like that's not okay. In addition to that, they put the city psychiatrist in our main headquarters, which meant that when you showed up there, you had to walk by all these other people knowing where you're going.
Yes.
Versus the other one where it was off site someplace, and you maybe you happen to see another officer that was there during another critical incident, debrief kind of a thing or whatever else. But so those little nitpicky things, it's like, does that really matter that much? Yeah.
No, it actually does matter. It does make a difference. And there are some chiefs that would listen to you and take that into consideration.
True. Yeah. And
That's why, go ahead.
a lot of them did. Yeah. In fact, one of my huge things that I couldn't stand was after our scene, we got the MAC vans, the mobile activity command vans that come out, but it takes them an hour to get out there. And in that time frame during ours in 2016, they were taking the other guys and putting them in the back of patrol cars. And I'm like, and I lost my mind, went to the 4th floor and I threw a fit. And I'm like, dude, no, you can't be doing that. And they're like, why? What do you mean why? I mean, I just
It's like they're getting arrested.
very much so, yeah. And of course it's Phoenix, it's hot, of course I wasn't supposed to say that, but whatever. I don't care. It's hot as blazes out there. You're in the back of a car with no air conditioning. All your friends are showing up. You can't go see them because you've now been assigned a critical incident stress person, which is great. Thank God they do that. But unless you're a commander or higher, nobody can come say hi to you. So you're seeing all your friends. You're back in the back of a patrol car where who goes there? All the shitheads of our world. You feel very, criminalized and alienated. It was bad. So I say, yeah, no more of that. So I went to the 4th floor. I'm like, hey,
Did they listen?
They did actually. They changed the policy on that, and they made it to where, like in my case, unfortunately, I had been through this so many times. I knew that for me, what I needed to do was go find a place in the grass and just sit down and just relax. Okay. Or when I wrote in the book, I said, I don't care what you have in your front seat. Take the stuff out and put it in the back seat or the back of the car, or whatever it is. Put your guy up front. Maybe he wants to listen to the radio. Maybe he wants to freaking, drink a Mountain Dew or whatever else. Putting the guy in the back seat, you might as well put him in handcuffs. I mean, shit, it doesn't
Yep.
work.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's 100% true. Where you place that person after that incident is so incredibly important because it it does determine their state of mind and like how they're feeling and whether or not they feel isolated or truly supported. That's a really good point, and I'm glad that you actually went and addressed it.
Well, I knew how I felt, and watching my buddies with these helpless looks on their faces. I'm going, dude, that's just not acceptable. Now, of course, at the scene, that wasn't the time. It was several weeks later. I went down and I was like, hey, just by the way, and unfortunately, a lot of the, you get assigned a supervisor. Typically, they may or may not understand that because they may or may not have ever been through it before. And they're basically just doing what they're told, which is, perfectly fine. But let's look at the big picture here. So.
Is there any footage on of you speaking on YouTube that I could look up?
Um, I've got one I did in South Pasadena, but it's not my normal thing. I got up there to speak about um, mostly like suicide type stuff. Um, I've been trying to figure out how to record my full presentation, which is about 3.5 hours, give or take. One of these days, I'm just going to pull the pin and just make it happen. But unfortunately, some of these they're kind of sporadic. So
Yeah, 3.5 hours. I don't know if I could entertain a group of people for that long. That's impressive.
I'll tell you, I mean, the reason I did it the way I did it, I set it up on purpose because I know with cops, they're only going to hear certain things, right? You start talking about suicide, they don't want to hear any part about that. But I start talking about the critical incident, the tactical side of the scene, they want to hear that part. So I encompass a lot of information in there, which is not everybody's going to hear everything, but somebody's going to hear something out of it. You know what I mean? So, um, and
Oh,
it's a
I'm
lot.
just great. I'm glad that you're still here with us, Chris. I'm glad that you never went down that route, and I'm glad you didn't pour yourself, into a bottle and just stay there and ball up into a ball in the fetal position and never come out of it. Some people, unfortunately, that's how their story ends up. And you know, I just want to thank you for your years of service, man, and just the work that you continue to do is awesome.
Back at you, brother. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Um, I'm just gonna hit you with my last few questions. If people want to find you, how should they look you up? What's the best
Um,
way?
you can Google me. You're welcome to throw my email out there if you want to.
Okay.
It's ChrisWarrior46 at Gmail. I'm sure you know that, but if anybody decides they want to look at the book, if you type in my full name, it'll bring up the second edition, which is the one that you want because I have two. Um, which is kind of a story because I started doing the Audible right around the same time it got finished. I reached out to Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, who did a forward for me, which is still one of the biggest events of my entire life. And so that second edition has his endorsement and 4 new chapters that the first edition don't have. So
That's the copy that I have, second edition. It's in my Amazon cart right now. I'm just adding a couple more books to it, but that's the better edition, the second edition of When That Day Comes. And I did get a little sneak preview with Audible. What's your definition of a hero?
oh man, I would say people, I mean, I hate to say like us because that's never been my thing, but folks that are willing to leave their own families behind to take care of other families, other strangers, so
So they're willing to make some sacrifices.
big sacrifices and a lot of stuff that we don't realize that wasn't part of the brochure. Like, oh, wait a second, you talk about that. So
When you were starting to feel really stressed out, how did you save yourself?
it was a conscious decision. I was having anxiety attacks, waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Literally, I'm not kidding you, breathing into a bag and not understanding why. Going, I'm pretty squared away. I've been through this before. Whatever. It shouldn't be this way. Um, and I had thought that, you know, mistakenly, this is what we signed up for, which I never use that term anymore because that's not what we signed up for. Now, yes, we sat in the background investigator's office saying, I'll do whatever it takes, but I don't think we realize what that actually means.
Right.
Something major happens. And so for me, I finally made that decision, and and there were several times when I'm sitting at a stoplight and I just bust out into tears. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I'm sitting on the couch and I just start crying out of nowhere. I'm like, what is going on? And I realized that that's not me. I don't want to be that guy. How do I fix myself? And then that's the first time I actually started reaching out for help outside of the city. So
Good. That's really good. And would you ever consider coaching other people?
oh, 100%. I would absolutely love to do that. Yeah.
All right, good. What's your power, your best ability, your strength?
Oh man, probably ask my girlfriend that. She might know better than I do. I would say probably just, being resilient. I don't let a whole lot get to me. Not to say I don't get stressed out from time to time, but you know, I've realized that, from a very young age, being raised by a single mom, that, it's, if I don't make it happen, it's not going to happen, and so as much as I depend on Natalie, my girlfriend, to rescue me on a daily basis, there are certain things that I've got to do on my own, and if I don't do them, they're just not going to get done. Like going back and starting all the way over again. So,
As I say, like push-ups, no one else could do them for you. But big shout out to Natalie.
yeah, oh, yeah, she's a rock star like 17 different ways. So, and if it wasn't for her, she says all kinds of nice things about, you know, the book saved my life, and you know, she was one encouraging me to go back because she goes, I didn't know you as a cop, but clearly you've never taken off the uniform. I'm like, oh, never even dawned on me. She's like, you see things that nobody else in the world would ever see unless
How
you're like
long were you retired from when to when? 18 or 21, you said?
2018. Yeah,
2018 to so 5 years out.
about, yeah, 5.5 now because it was July 5th of 2018. So yeah, we're pushing that envelope. So
Man, I wish you the very best on your journey back in. Do you have to do another academy?
thank God, no, which is a long story, but I did have to do a compressed academy, which is 30 days.
Okay.
That was a one of the multiple hoops I have to still jump through. So
Okay. All right. I did back-to-back academies, but I was young when I did it. I tell everyone I did like almost a full year of back-to-back academies, two different agencies.
they asked me, do I have the grit to go back and do it again? Probably, yeah. And I'm not so arrogant to believe that, I've got some 25-year-old RTO screaming in my ear about how, and I'm like, okay, could I do it? Yeah. Would I enjoy it? No.
Right.
If it came down to brass tacks, yeah, I'd probably suck it up. But
Yeah, I enjoyed being in the academy. I don't think I would enjoy it so much now. And I go to the gym every day.
yes, I mean,
Yeah.
well, except for now because I got sick last couple of days, but I'm in phenomenal shape, all things considered. Um, which for me is actually kind of a big deal because I was never one of those muscle guys, and I always kind of slip through the cracks on, it sounds bad to say it this way, but I was never a minimalist guy, but if I make the times, that's my goal for now. I don't need to do like when I was teaching at the Marine Corps Academy. Um, you had to do, it was like 25 push-ups in a minute or whatever. They had a kid that did like 110.
Oh my God.
He got little T-Rex arms, of course, but I don't need to be that guy. It just never really was one of my things. So
I think I could maybe do 50 if I had people watching. And typically I do sets of 20 or 25, but I think I could extend that to 50. When I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I could do, I never hit that 100 mark, but I could do like 75, 80.
oh, same, yeah, same here.
Yeah, one set, one go.
Got these huge long arms, and it's like, dude, I mean, people don't realize, that's a lot of freaking, lot of movement to go all the way down, every time. Like, I'm making excuses, but whatever.
If you had a comic book superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh man. So I gotta plug Nat, my girlfriend, for her thing, the Nothing But Love Notes. Um, so she literally has an organization, and well, she usually is the one that writes the notes, but I'm very oftentimes I'll hand them out to guys. And her superpower, according to her, is making grown men cry. And my superpower, because of her, is, kind of furthering that, if you will. So, and she says it all the time. She's like, "What dude's going to hand another guy a love note?" And so I do it all the time, and it's unbelievably rewarding. You see these guys, and they just get this handwritten note, and they're like, "What is this?" It's like, "Yeah, just kind of thank you for your service," kind of thing. And it's amazing the kind of reactions that you would see. I mean, we've made so many friends and made such an impact on so many people. And I wish I had been more involved with it earlier on, but this is where we are. So
That's a genius idea. I want to see one. Maybe you can send me like a picture of one via text. I want to.
I'll have it
Yeah,
out.
I love that idea. But what's your superpower though?
Mine, dude, I don't even know if I have one. Just
No, no, no. If you had an imaginary superpower, like
uh,
what would it be?
um, man, that's a tough one. I never had that asked before.
Speed, strength. Like you could be the Flash, you could be Aquaman, you could be Superman, Batman with all the gadgets and tools.
Yeah, I think I'd be like resiliency, man. Hey, you bounce all these things off me, and I'm just gonna keep coming back and fighting for more. So
Hey, resiliency is the key to not committing suicide. This chaplain who has studied this for a long time, he came to the peer support group and he talked about resiliency and how he said that's the key to the people who make it and the people who don't make it. And I love that you touched on it several times, just the ability to bounce back and you bend, but you don't break.
and it's not scientific. I mean, you just got to make that decision that you want to be okay. And that was where I came out the other end of the tunnel after, like I said, 2 years of darkness, trying to figure out why things are going wrong and why I'm having use of force thing coming out of policy and all this kind of stuff, because I was just angry all the time and I couldn't figure out why. you know well, I mean, when you hear about the scene, you'll have a much better understanding of that. And I realized that it's like, dude, this is not who I'm supposed to be, who I want to be. And I'm not gonna lie, the citizens of my city, they deserve better from me than being, a 60% cop. They deserve 100% of my dedication. So that made a huge difference for me as well. So
Mm. Chris, thank you so much for coming on, man. Your story is amazing. I love giving people the roses while they're still here, and similar to those love notes, I do it face to face over the show. Um, I love you, brother, and I appreciate you for the work that you're doing. Keep up the good work. Keep your head up. Keep your head on a swivel, and we'll talk. We'll talk off camera. Hold on.
yeah, love you back, man. Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, family. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Everyone I interview, I've chosen for you guys because of their story, and I hope that you get some value every single time. If you did get value or just simply enjoyed the episode, please share the episode with someone that you know. If you know of a guest, a frontline hero that has an amazing story, something uplifting or a positive message, hit me up in the contact form of www.davidleith.com or DM me at Instagram at davidleith1. Subscribe to the show because I have some really phenomenal guests coming up in the next few weeks that you definitely don't want to miss. All right, one.